Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So today we are taking a look at some brews for X-23, the new card releasing this week in the Spotlight Caches and the Token Shop. X-23 has been a pretty highly anticipated card. I did a whole separate video this morning talking about why I think this week is the best week to be opening your Spotlight Caches, because between the potential of X-23, Nebula, and Silk, I think there's just a lot here for people to have fun with and just get powerful cards that are good in interesting decks. I'll leave the link to that video in the description if you want a bit more of an overview on the Spotlight Caches. But without further ado, let's talk a little bit about X-23. X-23 is a 1-cost 2-power card that reads, when this card is discarded or destroyed, regenerate it at a random location and you get +1 energy next turn. Being able to ramp mana on following turns is an incredibly powerful thing, as we've seen most notably with the Time Stone effect, as well as Psylocke and Wave to a bit lesser of an extent. The fact that X-23 is just like Wolverine and can keep coming back to be destroyed again, to ramp again, makes her even more powerful because we don't only get one chance at making use of this ramp effect. Destroy has been a super popular archetype in Marvel Snap for a long time, and I think X-23 is going to be a great addition to it. Worth noting, she is dropping in Series 5, so that's a lot of tokens at 6k. I'd highly recommend going the opening your caches route for this one, as I think tokens are generally more efficiently spent on Series 4 cards at 3k compared to Series 5 cards. We can also take a quick peek at the variants here. I think a lot of people really like these ones. I know I do. I really like the X-23 one even. However, she is going to be having a Venomized variant releasing this week as well, so probably going to be holding off for that one because I don't really feel like burning an excessive amount of extra tokens or another Spotlight Cache just for a chance at a variant. But yeah, I do think this is pretty much the best Spotlight Cache week that we've had since the new system came out, so if you've been saving them up and you're interested in X-23, I really don't think you can go wrong with opening this week. It is worth mentioning though that it never hurts to wait a day or two, just in case though, because we never really know how these cards are going to pan out exactly, so if you're a little bit on the fence, no harm in waiting until a little bit later in the week to see how the card performs once it releases later tonight. That's the card though. Let's get on into some day one decks we have to make use of this really fun card. So there are 4 main decks we're going to be going over today, and we're going to be starting out with our Thanos lists. The first Thanos list here is an all-in destroy deck. I think this is going to be the list that has the most consistent potential with this card, as we've already seen how the Time Stone is really strong in Thanos decks, so getting another card that potentially acts as a pseudo Time Stone seems like a really great addition to the deck. The idea with this one is we are trying to use X-23 to ramp out some of our powerful cards like Nimrod, he's the big one, but also maybe Null or Thanos, or even just act as an additional energy so we can weave an extra Thanos stone in during any given turn. Unsurprisingly, we're running all the usual destroy enablers such as Carnage, Killmonger, Venom, and Deathlock, as we need as many ways to destroy cards as possible to hopefully blow up our things like Nimrod, X-23, and Wolverine. We run Shang-Chi for a bit of interaction, and he can feed our Null and Death if we get him down earlier on in the game. X-23 can be pretty handy because if you blow her up on turn 5, that'll actually enable you to play a destroy effect like Venom or Deathlock on turn 6 alongside Shang-Chi, which this deck was previously unable to do without the Time Stone. We have Yondu and Wolverine acting as more food for our destroy effects and reducing our death and pumping up our Null. Overall, I think if you're looking just for a fun and relatively consistent Thanos destroy deck, you can't go wrong with this one. If you're interested in blowing up some locations though, you might want to check out this version of Thanos Destroy featuring Galactus. Overall, the core here is very similar, but we do make a few subtle changes. Iron Lad here, potentially very powerful, being able to copy a variety of really good strong cards in the deck, whether it be our destroy effects, X-23, Wolverine, or one of our bigger cards like Nimrod, Null, or Galactus. X-23 also gives this deck an additional way to ramp out into Galactus, so that way you can get him out on turn 5 and then follow up with a powerful finisher such as Null on the final turn of the game. A lot of the Thanos destroy decks have cut Galactus at this point, so you can definitely catch people by surprise, and Nimrod and Wolverine have natural synergy with it as they blow up when the other locations go, and they can fill up our lane nicely even if we have to Galactus on the 6th turn. And the great thing about this is, even though this is a bit less consistent than a full-on dedicated non-Thanos Galactus deck, you have that little bit of an element of surprise as your opponent probably doesn't know you have Galactus, And if they do know you have it, they have to kind of be careful about playing around it, even when we're not necessarily going to be going for Galactus every game, because we can just lean on the powerful Thanos destroy regular plan. Shuri's another card you could consider in this deck, but it really is hard to find space for everything, and overall I think Iron Lad just provides a little bit more utility. However, if you don't have him, Shuri could be a pretty solid replacement in that slot. So those are the destroy decks I really like. Let's take a look at some discard stuff, starting off with a Sarah deck. So this idea originally comes from Safety Blade. I made a slight modification to it, but I really like the idea we have going on here, which is instead of being a control Sarah gamer, we are actually just trying to put out a crazy amount of power on the final turn. And we do still have Killmonger as a powerful tech, not only as a way to blow up our Nova or X-23, but also to deal with any troublesome 1-drops the opponent might be playing. Kitty Pryde and Angela have always been really, really good in the Sarah deck, as they allow you to just do a lot of stuff in the early game and pump up a bunch of power without playing a whole ton of cards. Carnage is nice because it gives us a way to blow up Nova and X-23 outside of our drawing our Killmonger. Colleen can be played on the final turn for essentially no downside, or even some potential upside if we have a Murmasa Shard from Dakin in our hand. We have the Mysterio Hitmonkey package, which even after Hitmonkey's nerf is still really, really strong, especially with Bishop, allows you to just put out a ton of points across the board, and the Mysterio clones can give us some additional food for our Carnage. As far as discard decks go with X-23, I think this really is going to be the one to play, and we can do some pretty cool stuff like discard her with Colleen Wing, or blow her up with Killmonger on turn 3 in order to cheat out our Sarah on turn 4 and get an extra turn of her very powerful cost reduction. And then last but not least, we have a Lockjaw discard deck. This one's pretty neat. So the idea with this deck is we're doing Lockjaw things. We're trying to throw stuff into the jaw, get big stuff to come out. We discard some cards along the way, which Hela can potentially bring back. We're using Gambit, Lady Sif, and Colleen Wing as our main discard outlets. Colleen is there to discard our X-23 or Swarm. Now, I don't think X-23 is always going to be amazing for the ramp in this deck. Sometimes it will be, but worst case, we just throw her away into the Lockjaw as a cheap thing to hopefully cheat out a bigger threat. Gambit helps us deal with an opponent's card while also going into the jaw and hopefully pulling out something bigger and discarding something to fuel our Hela. We have a small high evolutionary package in here, Wasp as more food for the Lockjaw, and Hulk as another big threat, as there are going to be a lot of turns we're not using all of our mana. Colleen discarding Swarm not only lets us swarm the board a bit more effectively, but gives us even more cheap food for Lockjaw to help cheat out some of our bigger threats, like Chavez, Hulk, Death, and Hela herself. And then Sif is our last discard card here, and the main reason we're running Death is so that if we have a bunch of 6-cost cards in hand and we have Death will get discarded, so we don't really have to worry about having a chance at discarding our Hela if she's in our hand. This is definitely the most experimental brew of the bunch, but I do think if you enjoy the discard Lockjaw playstyle, this one should be a lot of fun. And there we have it. That is going to wrap it up for our Day 1 X-23 decks. As always, links in the description to the decks if you want to import them into the game. And I'm going to be streaming with this card tonight, so if you want to check out some live games with it, tune in over on my Twitch, link in the description, to check it out as soon as the card goes live. But thanks so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.